Hello, Sunshine Fam. Yep, I'm back. I should be at work right now, but you're not going to believe what happened this time. This time it is not work related, however. Let me move my camera a little bit here. Oh my God. I swear when I turned 55, my body got shot to hell. Yep, I have another health issue. Believe me, I'm not happy about this, but at least this time I'm not going to be out of work as long as the last few times that I was out of work. So as some of you know, because I know some of you have watched the videos, me and Silver Star went up to Sauk Center this past Saturday. And the reason for that, number one, was to give you guys some more videos to watch, but the second reason was because my friend Dave Schrader owns the Palmer House, and I hadn't seen him in 5 years, and I wanted to go up and see him. So Silver Star and I had lunch up there, and then started walking around the little town, very little town, and then, of course, stopped at Avon to show you the church that my 3 times great uncles built. And I woke up Saturday morning and I felt fine. And once we got up there, it was like an hour-and-a-half drive from where I live. Once we got up there and started walking around, my right foot started hurting. Now let me back this up for some of you that are new and some of you that have forgotten about all the ailments I've had, because you probably haven't gone back to watch those videos. 2 years ago, about this time of year, I had started noticing that there was a bump on the back of my left heel. So if this is my foot and this is my leg or my heel, there was a bump like right about there. And it started to hurt. So I went to the doctor a number of times, and they said that I had Achilles tendonitis. So we started with physical therapy on that. That didn't seem to be making it any better. Wasn't getting much worse, but it wasn't really getting any better. So after several months of that, I decided in December of that year, which was 2024, that I was going to do the surgery, because that was kind of a last-ditch effort. There was one more thing I could do, but because it wasn't work-related, I wasn't getting paid, or the bills weren't getting paid. It wasn't workman's comp. So the other option I had, the doctor explained it to me. He said it would be out of my pocket because insurance usually doesn't cover it, and it would be like $100 to do this procedure, and I'd have to do it like 3 times. I went, no, I already owe you guys enough money. So I said, let's just do the surgery, because that was the other option. So I did the surgery in December of that year. Was laid up for about a month or so, and then went back to work with crutches and a walking boot till that got taken care of. Then in July of last year, because I'm a cashier at a retail store, that statement I know doesn't make any sense, but whatever. People still use cash. So when I would go to count their cash back or take their cash, I was starting to get tingling in my right hand, in my fingers, where I couldn't feel the tips of my fingers anymore. So I went and saw a different doctor, a hand doctor this time. And he said, yeah, your carpal tunnel is getting really bad, so let's do the procedure for that. So, okay, we'll do the procedure. So they did a little, they had done what I think they call an EMG, where they put like electrodes up your arm, and then they do like the needles in your arm. I can't think of what the name of that is, but some kind of, like, masseuses use it. It's like you guys are probably all screaming it at me right now. I think it's like a Southeast Asia thing where they put the needles in your skin or whatever to relieve some pain or whatever out of your body. sometimes in your back, sometimes in your leg. Well, they were doing that up my arm. That was not very, very fun either. And they realized that I had severe carpal tunnel, so then they decided to do the procedure. It wasn't really, I mean, to me it was a surgery because they kind of cut you open, but it wasn't me being put out. To me, a surgery is where they put you under anesthesia and you're sleeping through the surgery. This I call a procedure, even though they did do an incision on my hand right about there to do a median nerve release. Okay, so I was out of work for about 3 weeks with that. So then I was doing fine for a while. And when I went into work, I said, one more thing happens to me, take me out back and shoot me. Well, then if you remember, the day before Halloween last year, I tripped and fell over a small cart at work. And I fell flat on my face, spread eagle, and I ended up fracturing my arm, my left arm. So it went from my left foot to my right hand to my left arm. So then I was out of work for 3 months because my work would not allow me to work with a 1 pound weight restriction because a lot of the stuff we sell is very heavy items. So my job kept me out of work for 3 months, not the doctor. So I just recently went back to work in March. Now this is going on, and it's my right foot this time. So I'm like, really? So what they called it, I went to the doctor today. I went to ER or urgent care yesterday. And they took some x-rays, said that it wasn't a fracture, wasn't a break, and they really had no idea what it was. So they gave me a prescription medication of an anti-inflammatory. It wasn't prednisone. It was a different one that starts with an I. I don't have the paperwork with me, and I'm in too much pain to go and walk and get it. So I haven't started taking it because I got to take it on a full stomach. I just got it this morning, and with the help of Sea Dog. And then I went to this doctor appointment today. Back to the place where I had seen a different foot doctor, because now he's not at this clinic, he's at a different clinic. And this guy was really super nice. And he calls it post-tibia tendonitis. And when he said that, I went, no. I was thinking, he's going to mention surgery, he's going to mention physical therapy. Thankfully, he didn't mention either. He just said that I will be out of work again, this time for a week, and then I have to be in a walking boot for roughly a month, 3 weeks, a month, whatever. I'm going to turn this down so that it doesn't make noises. So now I'm laid up for a 4th time. I swear to God, this one I know was obviously not work related because it didn't happen at work. It happened up at Sauk Center. I asked the doctor if he thought because I was driving an hour and a half and I wasn't moving that foot much, could that may have contributed to this pain in my foot where I can barely walk. Because it's in the arch of my foot, and then it kind of goes to the heel and around the front of my foot or the top of my foot when I walk. So it's very painful to walk right now. Matter of fact, when I left urgent care yesterday, I didn't have to walk too far to my car, but it took me a good 5 minutes to get to my car. And I was literally in tears. I got in my car and I just bawled for like 15 minutes because I was in so much pain. Realized I have to lose some work. At least I have some time, like PTO and what they call flex PTO, which is like, it's kind of like sick leave. I have that to use, so at least I will get paid from work. But this means that because it's not work related, that it will not be workman's comp. So the urgent care bill, I recently finally paid them off, and now I'm going to be looking at another bill for them. The place I went to today, I still owe them over $1,000, just under $2,000 actually, from my foot and my hand from before. So now add to that bill, whenever I get it from today, And I got to go back and see this doctor in 2 weeks. Still have 2 more physical therapy appointments for my arm. I go see that doctor about my arm next Monday, probably to get the weight restriction lifted from that, because I'm still on a 15-pound weight restriction. But it's just one thing after another. And you know what? When I was laid up for those 3 months from December through March, I started thinking maybe I should consider getting into a different line of work. Because standing on my feet for 40 hours a week is really taking a toll. And it's not just on me. There's other people that are about my age or a little bit older that are having health problems, physical health problems at work. It may not be contributed to work. One person had a knee replacement. I don't think it had anything to do with work, but the last few days that I was working with him, he was walking super slow and with a cane. And his wife has a lot of health problems, so he didn't think he could take time off of work. So he's suffering through his pain. One gal that had been off of work before I had my accident last October, she was gone from work for several months with back problems. I don't think that was related to work, because she said that it wasn't work related. It wasn't workman's comp. You know, a couple of the people had slipped on some ice over the winter and hurt themselves, and they're older guys too, so they were out of work. One is still out of work. When he was getting ready to come back to work, he had kidney problems. So I'm like, oh my gosh, getting older and working just doesn't mix very well. So I have been considering other job opportunities. However, with my age, those of you that are my age or older will understand this, companies are less likely to hire somebody my age for like an office type job where I'm not standing on my feet, where I'm sitting at a desk working on a computer. And I can attest to that because when I wanted to go back to doing data entry after taking time off for several years, a lot of these companies, they don't do data entry anymore much at all. And I get with these temp agencies, because a lot of these companies do hire through temp agencies. They said that most of the jobs nowadays are customer service, and there's been so many new programs that have been put out since I last worked in data entry in 2018 that I would need to be trained on these new systems. Not to say that I'm not capable of doing that, but I've been out of data entry for so long that my typing skills have slowed down, I'm sure, over the past almost 10 years, 8 years, whatever it's been. So I don't know if I'd be able to do that kind of a job. So if you guys can think of any place here in the Twin Cities, or even a work at home job that's legit, that you don't have to pay in, that might be like a remote job for a legit company that I could do from home that would pay really good money, I'd greatly appreciate comments in the, down below. Really would appreciate that. But let's get into another subject here. I don't want to talk about health issues anymore. So, in one of my last videos, not the 2 that I just released, but the one prior to that where I said I was reaching out to you guys for some help, I said, why don't we do a Q&A? So, my big time supporter, John, had asked me several questions, like 10 questions. So let me see how many questions I can get through before my battery runs out. So let me answer some of your questions there, John. The first one I think I've answered before, but because I have new subscribers, it's a good question. It says, what made you decide to be a podcaster? Actually, I don't know if I would call myself a podcaster as I would a YouTuber. Yeah, these are kind of like vlogs, blogs, whatever you want to call them, but maybe it is considered podcasting. I don't know, just me talking to people, or in my case, I'm talking to a camera. But It was another YouTuber that I'd followed for many years. I don't really follow him anymore. I go to his videos once in a while. His name is Omar Gosh, and he did did something a few years ago, probably the biggest mistake he made. He had a cell phone, burner phone, and he gave out his phone number for people to call it to talk to him live. And all of a sudden his phone blew up. Not a smart idea, because he had a lot of followers at the time, several thousand followers. So of course he gives out his cell phone number and everybody started calling it. So he only got to talk to a handful of people that called up. And one person did say that they wanted to be a YouTuber, and could he offer some advice to them. And it was at that point that, even though I had started putting out some YouTube videos at that point, I think that was back towards the very beginning, when I had done like Irish dance videos. I don't remember if that was before or after I put out what I consider my first official YouTube video. That's called My Dog Nearly Got Attacked. It may have been around that time that I had watched that video, and he kind of inspired me to want to do YouTube. And I do it as a part-time basis. I don't get paid for it because I don't have enough subscribers. You have to have at least 1,000 subscribers in order to be monetized. So it was through this YouTuber, that Omar Gosh, that, and I had watched other YouTubers at the time too. And I thought that might be kind of fun to do YouTube. So at first it was kind of scary. Sometimes when I go out and do like Adventures with Chloe videos, or I go outside and you see people, staring at you or whatever. A lot of people do YouTube or TikTok, so a lot of people are used to that. So maybe they're like, oh, they're doing a video for social media, whatever. They just kind of look at you and they kind of walk on or whatever. But I do get a little bit, stage fright when there's people around. That's why I do a lot of videos inside my apartment. So that's to answer that question. What led you to choose the retail industry? I didn't really choose it, like I was just saying. I got burned out when I was doing data entry, because I had done data entry for a good 30 years or so. And I was starting to get burned out from that, even though I had worked for different companies. I was starting to get burned out. So I decided I was going to look for a different kind of job. Well, the older you get, as I said, the older you get, the harder it is to find a decent job. So that's how I ended up back in retail, because I had started out in retail when I first started working at the age of 16 for a company called St. Paul Book and Stationery, which no longer exists. It was a very small version of your Staples, Office Depot, Office Max, those kind of stores. Very popular back in the day, but I started out as a stock person around Christmas time, and then after Christmas is over, they made me a cashier. And from there I went to Nelson's Office Supply, and the pay was not that great back then. My first job at what we called Spebus, I got paid $3.20 an hour. Try working for that these days. So I went from that to data entry, and I really loved it for a while, and then I got burned out. So then I thought I wanted to get into a different field, so then I went back to retail. Now I'm looking at maybe getting into the travel field, but again, I don't know if my age would work against me. There's many different avenues that you can take to be in the travel field. You can do hotels, motels, you can do cruises, you can do trains, you can do car rentals, you could be a travel agent, you can work for the airlines. I mean, there's so many different things you can do in the travel field. So I'm thinking of possibly getting into that. I've never worked in the travel field, but I would really love to. Wouldn't it be awesome to get paid to travel? That would be freaking awesome. I wonder if even tour guide would be considered part of the travel field, but I'm sure that they don't pay very well. So that answers that question. Number 3, thoughts on being single in today's world, as a lot of younger people are choosing to be single. Thoughts on being a single parent, or on being single. You didn't really specify parent, but being single. I can tell you from just my opinion and my experiences from it, I've been married twice, for those of you that don't know. If you go back and watch my very first Who Am I video, I do tell you about my two now ex-husbands. Both of them were very abusive to me. More so verbal and emotional abuse, which to me are kind of the same thing. Kind of like extortion and blackmail. Two different words for the same type of thing. The second one ended up being physical, which is why I divorced him. But being single for young people, I think that would probably be more a question for, well, no, not Silver Star, because she's married now, but for Sea Dog, because he's not with anybody. I guess I wouldn't really be able to answer that in the way that you worded it, because of, you said younger people. A lot of younger people are choosing to be single. In some ways, it's a good thing because you don't have somebody telling you what to do. You don't have somebody that you're telling what to do. Like you live your life a certain way as being a single person, and you can come and go as you please. You can keep your house the way you want. You can eat what you want. You can look the way you want. You don't have to please anybody. But sometimes it does kind of suck being single. You know, it would be kind of nice to be with somebody once in a while. You know, I'm not looking to marry anybody again. Dating, I'm not opposed to dating, but I wouldn't, at this stage of my life, I'm kind of set in my ways, so I don't know if I would want somebody to necessarily move in with me. But yeah, dating definitely. But yeah, I mean, like I said, as an older person, although, you know, I do have some people that are maybe a little bit older than me that are part of my Sunshine fam, I might be considered a young person, but I know you're probably talking about people that are kids' ages, or maybe even younger, like teenagers or whatever. I haven't heard anything about young people wanting to be single. But then again, I am a recluse, so I don't really pay much attention to that. But yeah, I mean, the perks of being single is that you can do what you want, live the way you want, come and go as you want, eat what you want, look the way you want, and you don't have to please somebody else, and you don't have anybody else coming in and you want them to be a certain way. Hope that answers your question. Number 4, how has your political views changed over the years? I think I kind of answered this in one of my more recent videos when I was laid up, that I never was political before January, really. Did I ever go out and vote for people? Yeah. Did I vote the way that my parents voted, their political party? Yeah. But I also voted for people that were the opposite political party that my parents are. In this day and age, all politicians are crooked. We all know that. Especially this administration. As far as like voting, I know that's not really specific to this question, but as far as like voting, I vote for the people as if I was a boss hiring somebody to work for me. Because really, that's what they're doing. That's what they're campaigning for. You got you got like a few people in different political parties, which I really wish they'd take the party names out of it. But no matter what job you go for, you have to get hired on, and somebody else has to do that. And you're up against other people. And so that's kind of how I see voting, is that we the people, even though we're a lot of bosses for these people that are in office, political offices, from mayor all the way up to president, we're the ones that really hire these people on. Because if you think about it, we actually pay their paychecks. Because we pay taxes, those of us that work. We pay taxes, so that money goes to the government, and they decide what to do with the money. So, as far as your question, like I said, I didn't really get into politics much, especially deep into politics, until about January, when all this ICE stuff was going on here. Then I started sitting up and paying attention. Then the Iran war started. And then Greenland was in there, and Venezuela was in there, and I, honest to God, do not understand how anybody can continue to support a man that is out for his own self-interest instead of for we the people. Have any of them read the Constitution? Have any of them passed a geography test? I mean, when you're standing up in front of a group of people and you keep calling Greenland Iceland, I mean, do they even know politics? Do they even know geography? Do they know where countries are located? Do they even know their governments? And I just want to get into this a little bit. With this war in Iran, he keeps saying, Carpathia keeps saying, the war is won. We've won. We've totally taken out their infrastructure. It would take them 20 years to rebuild. They don't have any leadership. They don't have a navy. They don't have this. They don't have that. Well, then why do we keep fighting them? That's my question. Is that your question? All of you? All of my Sunshine fam out there? Why are we still fighting this war? Political. So hopefully that answered your question, John. Number 5, what advice would you give single parents since you've experienced that at a point in your life? Depends on the age of the parent. Now, I became a single parent back in 1997 when I divorced my first, now ex-husband, my children's father, which would have made me 30. It's very, very difficult. Unless you have a good paying job that brings in a lot of money, that you can support yourself and your children, depending on how old your children are. From my first divorce, the divorce from my kid's dad, I made a huge mistake by giving him 100% physical custody, but I took 50% legal custody, which was a smart thing because of something that happened years later, which I won't get into here. He had them during their formative years. So from 97 to 01, he had the kids. And then he moved down south, and I was living in Illinois at the time. And he was planning on taking our children down south with, he didn't ask me if it was okay. He basically told me that's what he was going to do. So we went to court. I'm just touching on it a little bit. And he didn't win because the court was not going to allow him to take the kids down south. And I wanted to take the kids for the summer that year, and I didn't win that one either. I got them for like a couple weeks or maybe a month or something like that. But that was an agreement between me and David during that time. And then he really wanted to move out of Minnesota, which I don't blame him because we have really crappy winters and he got tired of the winters. So he wanted to move to a warmer climate. Can't say I blame him. So he agreed to allow me to have the kids. Later that year, this took place within a couple of months because my second wedding was in June, where the kids came down and they were in the wedding, and then they went back up to Minnesota. And then between June and August, he really wanted to get out of Minnesota. So he was going to allow me to have the kids at that point. So he moved down south, and I've had the kids under my care the rest of the time, with the exception of a couple years when Sea-Dog moved down there to be with him. But that was around the time that he was in high school, so he was much older. So he had the kids during their formative years. We did not have an arrangement for child support or spousal support at that time. So neither one of us was paying the other for anything. So he probably had a harder time raising the kids during that time, during their formative years, because he was working and the kids were going to school, and he had to make sure that the kids were being watched because they were very young at the time. And I got them when they were a little bit older. But it was still kind of difficult because the kids were still in school, and it got to be quite difficult with my living arrangements at the time. So it really depends on the age of the parent and the age of the child. My kids are now all adults. They all live their own lives. 2 of them are married. One of them has almost 5 kids. Pregnant with baby number 5. Silver Star has decided she doesn't want children. Jeffrey Wolf does want children, so that's something they have to work out. Sea-Dog is single. So they're all adults and they're all living their own lives. So I would just say it's trying. Like I said, depending on the age of the child and the age of the parent, it can be very difficult when you're younger and the kids are younger during their formative years to take care of them financially, emotionally, physically, all that stuff. It can be very, very trying. If you're older, like myself, and my kids are older, it's not so much of an issue. I mean, yeah, I'm still concerned about them, but they live their own lives. So hopefully that answers that question for you. Oh, you did 5 twice. So you have actually 11 questions on here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. So 5, number 2. Who has been... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Since you're a pet lover, why haven't you gotten another dog since Lucky? Number 1 reason, I live in an apartment that doesn't allow dogs. That's why I'd gotten the hamster, Dusky. If I could have a dog, I would. But when I had Lucky, I was living in a dog-friendly building. And that was in 2020 when I had to put him down. And shortly after that, Sea-Dog and I had to move to another apartment that also was not dog-friendly. And so that's why I have not had another dog since Lucky. If I lived in an apartment with that would allow dogs, then yes, I would definitely have a dog. So that's to answer that question. I'd love to have another dog. They're much more cuddly than hamsters. Number 6, who has been the most influential person in your life? That's a hard question to answer because I have a few people. First and foremost, I would have to say my maternal grandfather, my mom's dad, that I haven't talked about in my Who Am I videos yet. He was very gentle. I don't really want to go into a lot of details because I'll do that in my Who Am I videos about him, but the difference between my mom's parents and my dad's parents was night and day. I've already talked about my dad's parents. How my grandmother had 7 children, I have no idea. Or was it 6? 4, 5, 6. I think it was 6. No, 7. Because I forgot about Clarence. Sorry, I'm trying to think if... Yeah, it was 6. She had 6 kids. How she had 6 kids, I don't know, because she hated when my grandfather would try to give her a hug. My mom's parents were very loving towards each other. I mean, never yelled at each other that I ever heard. They lived right next door to us when I was growing up. My other grandparents lived on a farm. Like I said, my dad's side of the family was all farmers. In central Minnesota. So I didn't see my paternal grandparents as much. But my grandfather was a big part of my life until I was 12. I took his death very, very hard when he died when I was 12. My mom is another one, because she mirrors her parents very much so. Influential person, people. I would have to say Dennis DeYoung from the group Styx, the old group Styx. He's the reason I wanted to become a singer when I was growing up. Michael Flatley is another one. He followed his dreams, and look at where it got him. I mean, amazing. Amazing dancer, amazing person. So those would be the people that I can't single out just one person. Sorry. Number 7, if you could interview one person, who would it be, and the one question you would have to ask? I think I talked to you about this and you never got back to me, John. One person I would love to interview would be Nikolai Carpathia, but it would not just be one question. It would be a series of questions. First question I would ask him is, how many ears did God give you and how many mouths did he give you? Can you listen twice as much as you talk? And can you, this would be a good time to shut up. That's from Newsies. That would be the one person I would love to interview. The other person, you didn't specify living or dead. So if I were to take somebody that has passed away, if I could interview one person, who would it be? And the one question you would have to ask. There's several. Judy Garland. I would love to interview her. But I don't think I could keep it to just one question. I would ask her why Hollywood, back in her day, when she was a child actress, why it was so important that all the actresses be so thin and that they had to be on these these pills, to where later in life they would overdose on them. Judy Garland, Marilyn Monroe, although Marilyn Monroe I think was more of a murder. But she was on a lot of different medications too. Nowadays it's not like that so much, I don't think, because you do see not stick thin actors anymore. And I'd also ask why Hollywood feels it necessary to have pedophiles, especially for children actors. I guess another person, I know you said one person, but I can't just narrow it down to one. The other person I would want to interview with one question, I don't know if I could just ask her one question, would be my daughter, Jennifer. I would ask her face to face, does she forgive me for not speaking up that day? Could I have saved her life if I had spoken up? Did it hurt when she died? That kind of thing. Anyway, let's move on to a more positive. Number 8, what would you like people to most remember you for? Wow. Should I steal Matthew Perry's answer to lived well, loved well? was a seeker. No, that I tried really hard to be a good person. I know everybody would like that, would like to be remembered for that. And we all have our bad days. But, gosh, these are really deep questions, John. What would you like people to most remember you for? My friendliness? The fact that I've taken you guys on adventures to different locations that maybe you've never been to. Tell you things about places you may have been to that you didn't know. With my Adventures with Chloe videos. That I am kind of an advocate for the homeless and puppy mills. You know, those things are not talked about in the mainstream media every day. And I think more people need to pay attention to those less fortunate, whether it be animals or people. If you were to walk in the slums of your major metropolitan city and you see the homeless on the street, you probably would never give them a second glance. But if you took a second to look at them and maybe talk to them and get their story, yes, a lot of them are drug addicts and alcoholics, and they're just looking for money to get their next fix. But some of these people, maybe their families rejected them. Maybe they were the victims of recession and they couldn't afford to continue living in their house and they were forced to live on the streets. You know, what if it was your brother, your sister, your best friend, your mother, your father, your cousin, a family member? Would you turn a blind eye to them, or would you try to help them? Same thing with animals. Not everybody loves animals, but you don't keep them in cages stacked on top of each other and use them for your own financial gain. Breeding them every cycle and basically killing them. You would not, I would hope that people that own puppy and kitty mills would not treat their own children that way. So I am an advocate for that. That's one thing I really would love to be remembered for. Number 9. With so many negative feelings towards Carpathia, how did he get so many Americans to vote him into office? Excellent question that I don't have an answer for. Like I said in every video I mention him in, why do people still support him? I don't know. Obviously, people see things in him that you and I don't see. I mean, you've even admitted to me, John, that you used to be a supporter of him until you started seeing my point of view and you looked at it deeper and saw that he's not such a great guy, so you turned. A lot more people are starting to do that now. So that is something you'd have to ask a MAGA person, I guess. That's just my answer. Why San Diego, number 10? Granted, I haven't visited many places. I've never been outside the continental 48. I've never been to most of the continental 48. But San Diego, it's hard for me to explain that because when I first went there, when I was a junior in high school with one of my siblings, we hadn't even gone anywhere yet. We had walked outside. Now remember, this was January. We walked outside the airport and we were waiting for our car and to meet with some friends that live in Poway, which is about a half hour northeast of San Diego, or I guess straight north. I stood outside and the air is just different out there. You look one way and you see the ocean. You look the other way, you see the mountains. And there's so many things that you can do in San Diego that you can't do here. Can you board an aircraft carrier in Minnesota? Do we have what I call outside shops, Seaport Village? Do we have a lake? This may be true. We might, because we have like over 13,000 lakes. But do we have a lake nearby that is off the beaten path, where the lake is clear as glass, although this part would not be true, surrounded by mountains, because we don't have mountains in Minnesota. We don't really have a lot of places where they do major movies here. They did a major movie, for at least one, well, several. Two of them I can think of offhand. One starred Marilyn Monroe on Coronado, called Some Like It Hot, and the other one was Top Gun. Part of Top Gun was filmed in San Diego. I've eaten at the restaurant where they filmed part of the movie, called the Kansas City Barbecue, right across from Seaport Village. I don't know why I love San Diego so much, but as we were standing in the parking lot, I turned to my sibling and I said, someday I'm going to make this my home. We hadn't even gone anywhere, and I already had those feelings of San Diego. Now, I have been to different parts of Florida many times. Last time I went there, I was like 13. And while it was kind of fun, it just, to me, it had a different feel. Maybe if I went there now, I would feel differently. I've been to Tampa, I've been to Miami. Apparently, we went across the long bridge over the water to the first key, and then my dad didn't like the fact that none of us were paying attention, so we turned around and we went back. Been to Busch Gardens, been to Orlando. Of course, you got to go to Orlando because you got to go see Walt Disney World. Been to Epcot. Sanibel Island. I've been to, all over Florida I've been. When I was a child, we used to take vacations there all the time. And yeah, it was kind of fun, but I don't really remember anything really sticking out during those times. I get like snapshots of it. So I know that it's very humid down in Florida. They are more prone to hurricanes. And even though when I tell people I want to move to San Diego, one of the first things people tell me is it's more expensive to live out there. Yes, it is. They have earthquakes. Let me debunk that. Yes, they do have earthquakes in San Diego, but they aren't major earthquakes. The San Andreas Fault starts in LA and goes up to San Francisco. LA is easily 2-hour drive from San Diego north. San Diego is much closer to the Mexican border. It's only 13 miles from the Mexican border, so there is that to contend with. But every time I've gone there, I've felt safe. It's just a different feel out there. It's kind of like asking somebody, why do they like chocolate? Why do they like steak? Why do they like whatever food they like to eat? Broccoli. Ugh. I don't like broccoli. I think it tastes like grass, but some people like broccoli. Why do they like their food seasoned a certain way? Why do some people like barbecue and some people don't? I'm not one that's a big barbecue person. Not that I won't eat barbecue, but, barbecue sauce, I should say. But I'm not a big one for barbecue. It's hard to explain why you like something or somewhere or someone. Sometimes it's just because I do. I would love to go to Ireland, but now with these new doctor bills, don't know if that's even going to be happening next year. And now that I hear in the mainstream media that Trump is planning on putting his picture on passports, I don't know how long it's going to take for that to happen, but I don't know if I'd want a passport with his picture on it. Why does he have to have his name on everything? So I hope those answered your questions. So anybody else that might have some questions, or John, if you have any other questions that I can answer in another Q&A, maybe we'll make this a series, feel free to ask. But yeah, as far as, let me get back to the Iran war a little bit. I don't understand why when Pete Hegseth gets up, when Carolyn Levitt gets up, little twit, I can't wait for her to go on maternity leave so we don't have to listen to her whiny little voice and her, look at her cute little smile when she's trying to answer a serious question, and her 28-year-old brain. She probably has never been anywhere. They almost boast as if it's a good thing that we're destroying an entire civilization, an entire country. That just doesn't compute well with my brain. I don't understand that. Why they make it sound like, oh, we're doing such a great job and we're going to continue to bomb them and everything, even though we've won the war and we've taken out most if not all their stuff. Now we got to take out their energy and stuff like that. Why? If you've taken out every freaking leader and there's nobody running that country right now, and you're trying to go after the uranium, some people have said that he started the Iran war to get people to stop talking about the Epstein files. Don't know if that's true. Could be partially true. He went into Venezuela to get their oil. He wanted to go to Greenland to get the minerals out of their island, their country. Jon Stewart said it best in one of his little clips. Are we broke that we need to go to other countries and steal their whatever, their natural resources? I've heard Venezuela's oil is filthy dirty, that it wouldn't be usable here anyway. And he said, oh, we don't need Iran's oil. Well, then why are we there? For the uranium? Again, let's go to the thing about the nuclear weapon thing. Oh, they had a nuclear weapon. They had the capability of making a nuclear weapon. Okay, yeah, they have like 60% of the uranium that it takes to make a nuclear weapon. Should they choose to do so, there is no evidence whatsoever that they ever had a nuclear weapon. Russia has 5,500 nuclear weapons. The United States has 5,400 nuclear weapons. Do you hear any other country trying to bomb Russia and America because we have nuclear weapons? You don't even hear about that talked about in the news. Again, research. Tried to not use that word in this video because I've been using it a lot. But why is it okay for Russia and America to have all these nuclear weapons, but Iran can't even have one nuclear weapon? Other countries have nuclear weapons. We're not going after them. What about the Bay of Pigs invasion back in the 60s? We didn't bomb the hell out of Russia at that time, probably because JFK was too concerned that it would start a nuclear war and we wouldn't be sitting here. But look what happened in Chernobyl. That thing, I mean, granted, it wasn't a nuclear weapon, it was a nuclear power plant, but it blew up, and people are still feeling the effects of that, especially in England. A lot of that cloud went over to England. I saw a video a few years ago that a guy went to as close as he could get to Chernobyl to test the dirt in the area around there, and it was a very high reading still of nuclear fallout. And then he went to England and tested the dirt there, and it was just as high. So people in England are still dealing with the nuclear fallout from Chernobyl back in what, the 80s? But you don't hear that talked about. I don't get his thinking. Most people don't get his thinking. And I was looking at The Economist again about Trump's rating. It keeps going up and down. I'm sorry, Carpathia's rating. Some states are still considered in the positive, but they're at a 0. So like they don't approve or disapprove. Right now, his approval rating, according to The Economist, he's down 19 points, down 1 point from last week. If we go by state, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 states now that are in the approval rating, but places like Montana have a 0. I think Oklahoma has 3. Arkansas has 1. Tennessee has 3. Utah has 0, but they're considered positive. DC is down to negative 80 again. Vermont is down to negative 44. Minnesota is down to negative 26. Florida is down negative 7. Hawaii, negative 42. And Alaska, negative 12. So out of 50 states, 8 of them are considered positive, even though 2 of those are a 0. So not positive or negative, just a 0. And they probably are going to go into the red here pretty soon, hopefully. But I mean, if you look at the map, let it zoom in there. Look at the map. The gray states are the ones that are in the positive, even though 2 of them are 0s, and the red states are in the negative. And yet he claims that he claims he's the greatest president this country has ever had. Has he done his research on the other presidents? Yeah, we've had some pretty bad ones like Hoover. And he claims his approval rating is better than any president ever. I did my research on that too. George W. Bush, after 9/11, his approval rating was a positive 98%. Negative 19, 98, positive. And why isn't he going to these countries why is he sending J.D. Vance to places like Pakistan to discuss making a deal with Iran? Why isn't Carpathia going? Mostly the president usually does those things, don't they? Is he so busy with his freaking ballroom? And I didn't look this up, I was meaning to, but I didn't look this up. But in the past few years, he has had an assassination attempt on his life 3 times. 3 times. And they're blaming Jimmy Kimmel for the latest one, that correspondence dinner. They're blaming Jimmy Kimmel for that? Are you serious? There was a video that was put out on a short, I think it was on YouTube, where they were interviewing people about that. You know, was Jimmy Kimmel really... shoot, hold on a minute. I don't know. Let me go into here. Give me just a second, guys. It was a short. And it was this guy they were interviewing people on the street about the correspondence dinner. I can't find it now. I think I'm going back too far here. Anyway, they interviewed people. And this one guy said, "You're going to sit there and blame Jimmy Kimmel for the shooting on the correspondence dinner, or at the correspondence dinner on Saturday?" He goes, you know, and some people were saying, well, what about what Carolyn Levitt said? Shots will be fired. Why don't they go after her for saying that on the night that it happened? Whereas Jimmy Kimmel, what he said about Melania having the glow of an expectant widow, they're dissing him for that and want to have him fired. This guy says, what about all the negative things that Trump says about everybody? Good point. All these women reporters are stupid people. And they're incompetent. Again, all these fake news outlets, what's real news? Only because they talk against him. If they talk for him, then they're not fake news. But they speak the truth in some cases. Is he going to get me fired? He doesn't even know me. I couldn't believe when Dr. Phil stood up and said that Trump cares about people. Yeah, okay, whatever. That made me lose respect for Dr. Phil. He's a huge time Trump reporter or supporter, and I'm like, why? Why can't you see what the rest of us are seeing? Again, John, I can't answer that question. That's a MAGA question. And I'm not MAGA. I am the farthest thing from MAGA. Again, make America great again. Ronald Reagan said it first. So now I need to go and ice my foot as this is uploading onto my computer. But I just wanted to put on another video. And again, I'm out of work for a week this time. And then I have to wear the boot going back to work. I tried putting the boot on. It actually hurts more to have the boot on than it does to not have it on. So hopefully this medication will lower the swelling in my foot and it'll be easier to walk around in the boot. And hopefully this pain will go away by the time I go back to work next Tuesday. I really hate to use up all my PTO on this crap, but you gotta do what you gotta do, you know. Can't go without getting paid, you know. So anyway, hope you guys, thank you all for joining me today. Thanks for watching my videos. The latest ones are not getting as many views anymore. I guess you guys want to watch political videos rather than Adventures with Chloe or blog videos, whatever. Podcasts. I'm not Luke Beasley, sorry. But anyway, John, thank you for the questions. And hopefully I answered them for you. And Sunshine Fam, please keep me in your prayers that no more physical problems happen with me. I thought, there's no more body left for me to hurt. Now it's starting at the bottom again. So now I'm like, what? So now it's in the right foot. Now then it's going to be the left hand and then the right arm. No, I'm not trying to predict that. And I hope to God it doesn't happen that way. So anyway, hopefully this week, I was planning on doing another Who Am I video yesterday, but I was in too much pain and spent a lot of time at the urgent care, so I didn't make a video yesterday. But now that I'm laid up again, maybe tomorrow I'll do another Who Am I video, finishing up the information that I currently have on my dad's side of the family, and then we'll move over to my mom's side of the family, which I think will be more interesting, because I do have some occupations with them, and those people lived more here in the Twin Cities, and they came from many different countries. So I look forward to telling you about my mom's side of the family, where it'll be a little bit more variety than just Germany and farmers. So thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a sunny day.